me, just because I don't know if my mic is working. Can you hear me? Okay, good. Okay, so have you ever... Hey, little girl. It's okay. It's okay. She has safety issues. Have you ever felt like your body is not your original body? Have you ever felt like planet Earth just isn't your home? Well, don't worry, because you're definitely not alone in this struggle. And, it's very difficult for all of us to really figure out our identity. And today, that's all I really wanted to talk about is identity and why we are all pushed into a very fear-based energy with the fight or flight mechanisms, with the survival mechanisms. And it really has a lot to do with the loss of identity within oneself, right? So if you've ever felt lost within your own identity, this is definitely the live video for you. So much to talk about. So I'm going to be talking about my own personal struggle with identity. I'm going to be talking about cosmic identity and what that means. I am going to be talking about OCD, actually, and identity. And I'm also going to be talking about how to overcome the fear that comes along with not knowing who you are. And this is really important because a lot of us, especially at this time, we're really struggling and fighting with our own fear. Who am I? What do I want? Where am I going? And a lot of us just have no idea. So we'll be talking about that. I'm also going to be talking about a concept called body dysmorphia. I think that's what it's called. And basically what this is feeling like you should be in a different body. I mean, we see this in a very general term with gender, right? I mean, if you're a female and you feel like you need to be or want to be a male and vice versa. But there's also animal body dysmorphia, where there's actually people out there who feel like they're a wolf, or they're a tree, or they're a cosmic being from another dimension. I mean, that's possible, and that happens all the time. And to be honest, it's easier to say, I feel like a boy, male, more than a female, or I feel like a dog more than a human. It's very uncomfortable and awkward to disclose one. Yeah, I feel like a being on another planet. And not only is it really awkward and uncomfortable to say something like that, and almost embarrassing, but I feel like a lot of us feel displaced within our physical body without having any idea we feel this way. Come down to our cosmic identity. I'll tell you all that a lot of depression, a lot of anxiety, a lot of restlessness, even a lot of paranoia all come from, it all comes from not feeling like you are in the right body or the right place. It's like this underlying anxiety that comes from, feeling like you're not in the right place. That feeling where you're in school and you go to a classroom, but you go to the wrong classroom, and you have this feeling like, I know I'm in the wrong place, but I don't want to say anything. That's how I have felt my whole life, and guaranteed that's how most of you have felt as well. So I want to ask all of you, before we dive into this, where are you from in the world? Let me know. Where are you from? And how has your last week been? I mean, it's been really, really crazy energy, like really crazy. Like we're having high highs, super low lows. So where are you coming from in the world? And yeah, where are you coming from? And how has your last week been, or last couple weeks? What is your definition of this past week? So while you guys are kind of going into that, I just want to say hi, everyone. Hi, Shannon on YouTube. Hi, Sarah. Hi, Alex. We've got Tennessee, we've got the Caribbean, we've got Alabama, we've got Wisconsin, Los Angeles, hello, Ohio, Las Vegas, Netherlands, upstate New York, okay, Texas, awesome, fantastic. Australia. Awesome. Yeah. And you've had a rough week. Man, it's been crazy. Like all of our fear that we thought we left behind, it's all coming back up. So don't worry. You're kind of in alignment with where everyone else is at. Okay, as you guys are explaining where you're from and where you're at right now energetically, I'll go over a couple of announcements. Podcast. My podcast is coming out. I am linking the podcast link with my website right now. So I will be directing all of you basically to that podcast link. I think you're able to download the podcast before it even comes out. So you definitely don't want to miss out on this podcast. It's going to be absolutely epic. It's every Tuesday for half an hour. I'm just going to be literally shooting the universal shit, and it's going to be freaking fantastic. So definitely keep that in mind. We're kind of planning on April 1st. If you are interested in advertising yourself or your services, especially if you do holistic services, I have open slots for advertising and sponsors on my podcast. So please contact me, email me, expand@elizabethapril.com. And I will connect you to my advertisers. I don't know how much it is, but just know that you're supporting a really good cause and you get to get the word out there on your stuff as well. Okay, and then what else? Okay, webinars, definitely want to mention that. But before I do, I want to talk about this really beautiful high vibrational couple. Huge shout out to Sarah and Joe. I'm not sure where you're from, but they have this really amazing company. It's called Lily Rose Jewelry. Super, super beautiful. And they make malas and necklaces and crystal jewelry. And it's actually super amazing. And they sent me 2 beautiful malas. One that you can actually see on my wrist, pure onyx. I mean, they know me so well. So grounding, so protective. And then this one is like so powerful. Amethyst, labradorite, and a rose quartz. So gorgeous. My lovely assistant, Lauren, will be sending links to that Lily Rose Jewelry co.com. So check them out. I mean, it's really incredible, super high vibrational, and they're just such a beautiful couple. So thank you, both Joe and Sarah, and your little one for sending me those malas. And anyone else want to send me any of their products, I am totally open to receiving. And then last but not least, I want to talk about my webinar. Oh my goodness. So I had this really awesome guy reach out to me in an email, and I just want to read a couple of the highlights that he mentioned. He says in an email, this is an email he sent. Hey, Elizabeth, wow, just wow. This is beyond what I did. I'm blown away about all of the information that you shared in the webinar and during the whole. And he's like, I went from psychic 5 to 6 to 9. He's like, you changed my life. Let's be honest, forever, which is pretty cool. And then he just kind of went on. He's like, I want to shout it from the rooftops. He's clearly so excited. And then he's like, I need to calm down. I don't want to, I want to tell everyone about it, but not before they're ready. So it's like really incredible. And yeah, and he just says like he really wanted to share it with me, that this webinar literally blew open his third eye. And that's really incredible. So thank you so much, Martins, for sharing your experience and being so excited about awakening and emailing me that information. So please check out my webinars. Literally, you pay for it. It gets sent to you in an email. It's a video. It's an hour and a half long, and clearly it can change your life and it can drastically open your third eye. So I've got one on breaking through the matrix, the reality, which is more about quantum physics. I've got one about how to open your third eye and become psychic. Of course, that's the one that he went into. And then I've got one about manifestation. They're all super powerful. Please check them out. Now, before we deep dive into the content, I just want to remind all of you, please like, comment, subscribe on YouTube. Please, please, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I think eventually I'm going to be transferring over Facebook to YouTube altogether. So I will not be having any more Facebook Lives. I'm going to be introducing that solely on YouTube. So please hop over to YouTube, subscribe to my channel, and feel free to give me the thumbs up, the little heart, or even the angry face, whatever you feel during the content, so I see that you're resonating with me, just because I don't always have time to read each one of your comments. Hopefully that kind of makes sense. Oh my goodness. Okay, so clearly the Schumann resonance has been through the roof. I mean, the awakening, the vibration, the energy has been so incredible and so insane. An experience that I had on Saturday. This went to this show. It's by this artist named James Hood, and he does like the spirit drums, like the hang drums, like this the drum. I don't know, the drumming. It's like really beautiful. Anyway, and then in this dome in Los Angeles, he projects this quantum art that is like in the dome. And so I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh my goodness, like when I release DMT in my mind and I travel through the universe, this is what I see. I was like, we were like breaking through dimensions while being completely sober during his like live instrument playing and the projection of this like 3D hologram matrix. It was so intense for me that I had to close my eyes for a lot of it. And he actually said, he sat down and he said, for those of you who just arrived and you have no idea what you're in for, and someone just kind of took you along to this event for entertainment on a Saturday night, he's like, you probably want to leave right now. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like, what is this? Like, what did I, obviously I was drawn to it because it was so like, I just needed to be there. But anyway, so throughout the whole, like, it was an hour-long download. That's really what it was. My entire body was shaking, like from head to toe. Like I was just vibrating. This doesn't happen often, but it usually happens around the full moon. It usually happens when I have a huge download, a huge, DNA shift and activation. So here I am just like looking at this like geometric patterns, listening to this music, just being taken completely out of my body and then shot right back into my body. And part of me was battling this deep fear. I'm like, don't let go, don't let go, don't let go. And then my higher self is like, let go, just trust. And the reason why I didn't fully let go, because number one, I would have been convulsing. Like my whole body would have been convulsing with this download, this shift, this activation that he was giving all of us. And so I didn't want to let go to just be convulsing in this room with like 100 other people, but at the same time, I knew that I needed to like overcome that. And anyway, it was really difficult for me to let go of the control. And I really still didn't. And I didn't fully learn that lesson. But please, please, please go check out James Hood and his music. If you want to sit and meditate or have a vibrational shift, I mean, of course, with the visuals, that's like the next level. But his music alone, definitely recommend everyone check that out. Okay. Actually, I posted it on Instagram and I already had a friend of mine, Steph, reach out and say, oh my goodness, this music is amazing. I've now downloaded all of his albums, which is amazing. So check it out. I definitely highly recommend it. It really impacted me to a very deep level, so I recommend it to everyone. Okay, so I want to check in with your homework that I assigned last week. And I want to ask all of you, what feedback this past week? Like, what did you really change? What did you really shift vibration this past week? So what did you confront? So last week, I kind of wanted all of you to choose a fear that you had, and I wanted you to confront that. Now, for me, I would say the fear, the biggest fear that I have is the loss of control of my own mind. And I think because I'm really balanced, well, trying to be really balanced between the fifth dimension and the third, and in many past lifetimes, I've gotten so out of my body that I've gone into psychosis or schizophrenia. So I was challenged this week, during this Mesoamerica show with James Hood. I was challenged to just let go and to trust, and I still couldn't, right? So it's okay to also be challenged with your fear and not fully overcome that challenge. It's totally okay. But what did you do? What did you do differently this past week? What did you confront? What did you change this week? What did you shift your reality into? Let's see what else. Okay, Bruce, you were really sick and yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's see. Anyone else? Anyone else? What did you shift? What did you change? What did you confront? I mean, it could even be like you ate different food than you're usually used to eating, right? It really could be anything. Okay, so I want to talk about my own personal struggle with my body and conforming in a way, I guess, and just kind of dealing with this is who I am, you know? I want to ask all of you, what is your biggest fear or what is your biggest dislike when it comes down to your own physical form, when it comes down to your own physical body? What do you dislike the most, right? What have you really struggled with in this lifetime? Everyone has their thing. So for me, I'll just kind of go back. When I was a very little girl, like probably between the age of 3 and 6, maybe even 3 and 5 mostly, I had this obsession with being a little boy. And I couldn't figure out for the life of me why I was put into this body. It was really difficult for me to figure out. And so I didn't really understand how much of a struggle this was until my mom gave me a book of all of these cute little things that we would say when we were younger. And so like the year would be like 1994, Elizabeth, and then this little like line of what I said when I was 3 years old or whatever. And so I went through this book. I was super interested. I went through this book, and there are so many quotes from me between the age of 3 and 5 where like this is, I don't know, it's really funny, but one of the things that I said, and I said this often in very many different ways, which was, Mom, you know, why does, I don't even know how to say this, you know, Mom, like, when is my penis going to grow in, right? Because like, you know, you would like bath with your brother, and I was very confused about like, why does he look different than me? You know, and I was really obsessed with like, why? It was all of these things that I was like questioning. I was a really, really small child, and I didn't understand what is this? What do I do with this? You know, and sometimes still I'm like, I'm confused, you know, I'm like, and it's because I have been far more in a male body in past lifetimes than in a female body. And it's been kind of my ultimate test to be in this female body, and also to be in such a small female body when I'm very much so used to, you know, being much more, like much more masculine, much more leader, you know, much larger, right? I'm just not used to it. So that was really interesting. So when I was a child, definitely thought that I was a little boy, or that I should have been a little boy. And then when I was a teenager, I kind of just like, I went through a whole stage when I was like 10 years old where all I wanted to be dressed in was boy clothes. So finally I had the choice, especially after my parents' divorce, to kind of wear whatever I wanted. And, you know, I just told my mom, take me to the boys section, you know, and I cut off all my hair, and I was like super rebellious, and it was really great. And I actually had a lot of kids when I was like maybe 7, 8, 9. I had a bowl cut, which is, I still thinking about rocking it again. And I had a lot of kids on the playground say, are you a little boy or a little girl? And for me, the question of, am I one or the other, it never really crossed my mind. It never really came up that I even had to define myself in one or the other. Now, of course, my dad put me in all pink and put me in ballet class. And I'm like, I want to do karate. What am I doing in ballet? Right. So anyway, and so, and so it was just this whole gender thing, but I never really got caught up in feeling awkward about wanting to be a little boy. I never really, you know, and maybe I got made fun of for looking like a little boy with my haircut, but I was okay with it. I felt more comfortable that way. Have any of you ever felt like you weren't in the right body, in a sense? Have any of you ever struggled with your gender identity? That being said, like a couple months ago, I had this like really awesome client of mine from, I think he was maybe Australian or English. And he's this big, jacked up, burly guy with this huge beard. And he looks like a lumberjack or like some sort of construction worker. And he says, Elizabeth, he's like, I look like this, but he's like, all I want to do is I want to dress in like frilly clothing, and I want to be a girl. Right. And this poor guy is like in his 30s, and he's this big, burly guy, and he's put into this body, of course, because that's something that makes him feel very uncomfortable. Right. So it's so interesting how, you know, we're really put into the body that we need, not necessarily the body that we feel most comfortable in. And confronting the uncomfortability is really important to understand our own identity, right? Okay, so I want to talk about cosmic identity. Oh, yeah. Okay. So back to my story a little bit. So when I was a teenager, I kind of started to be a little bit more feminine. I started to realize that people kind of judge you on what you look like. So I kind of conformed a lot more. And then I had this moment. I remember I was like 15 years old, really struggling with loving myself. I mean, here we all are, right? And I've always had bad skin. I've either had a lot of eczema, like really, really dry skin, or really, really oily skin, right? Like either like acne or eczema, right? It's always been super embarrassing for me. And of course, like that's my outward facing self. It's like you have to confront every day. And so I remember I was looking at myself in the mirror at 15, and I said, oh, like I wish my skin was just clear. Like I wish I could just get over this stage of life. Like, why do I have to go through this? I just want to be like, just want to be pretty, right? And then this thought came into my mind, and I thought to myself at 15, I said, even if you had clear, beautiful skin, you would find something else to pick on. And I'm like, oh my God, yeah, you're right. There would always be something else that I wouldn't like or I wouldn't love about myself because it had nothing to do with that one thing that I wanted to target and hate on. It had to do with my feeling of my own internal self-love, right? And that's really what it comes down to at the end of the day for everyone, right? Okay, so I want to talk about cosmic identity. So a lot of us, once again, we're restless, we're anxious, we're depressed. Now, I want to ask all of you, are you the type of person that have tried many things? You've been in many different social situations. You've been a part of many different groups of people. You've tried many different careers and many different jobs. You have tried many different hobbies and many different things. And yet you still feel like you're finding something. You still feel like you're searching for something. You still feel like everything that you've tried doesn't quite resonate completely. It's kind of like the religion that's out there in the world. It's like, yeah, Buddhism, yeah, it's really close, but not quite. Christianity, definitely not, or whatever. It's really close, but not quite. Like whatever it may be, there's always this hit and miss. So I'm getting a lot of thumbs up. Okay, you guys feel that. And so what it comes down to is we, as cosmic beings, have come to this planet in this incarnation, in this body, right? No matter if you're an old soul or a young soul, even though I believe we're all pretty much old souls, we're all trying to find what suits us, what serves us, who we are. We are literally trying to conform ourselves from the day that we're born. Are we in blue or are we in pink? And we're always do crystals resonate with me? Does this resonate? Is this who I am? Is this my group? Is this my tribe? And at the end of the day, we are never faced with, you might be an alien. Like whoever tells you that? Your parents definitely don't tell you that. Your teachers at school definitely don't tell you that. The education system doesn't tell you that. The government doesn't tell you that. I mean, if anything, talking about aliens and interdimensional beings is a very taboo subject. And I'll tell all of you that it wasn't until I was 18 and I basically broke through the matrix and I got abducted by aliens for the first time. And I started to open my mind about, holy shift, there's other things that exist out there. Holy shift, I might be a part of that, right? Like I might be an interdimensional being. And that right there, finally, it was like all of my questions, the questions that I didn't even know I was asking, all of them simultaneously got answered in that very moment of, okay, cool. That's why I've been struggling so much. That's why I've been so anxious. That's why I've been so depressed. Not even just the masculine version of woman, but this function system, this earth, this density does not feel like home. Do you vibe with me? Are you there with me? Have you ever questioned if this was your home, just in general? Have you ever questioned if your parents were your parents? Or if you have maybe another identity or another kind of family that's out there, And so I've really struggled with this for years until I really realized my own cosmic identity. And then I've been stepping into that. The biggest thing about finding your identity or realizing that, okay, cool, I might not be human. What do you do with that, right? Where do you go from that statement? And unfortunately, it's not like great, I'm an alien. Let's just go off and be an alien. You have to be here. I mean, I do not condone taking your own life, because I truly believe that we all chose to be in this incarnation, to struggle with our own body issues, to struggle with our own self-love, and to essentially struggle with our own identity. The problem is that our biggest fear as humans in general is that we don't know, right? The fear of the unknown is the ultimate fear for anyone in any situation. And if you don't know who you are, and nothing seems to actually fit who you are, and no identity that you've ever tried to attach yourself to actually seems to be that piece of the puzzle, then we're constantly projecting an identity to feel like we know who we are. And through that projection, we attach ourselves to who we think we are, rather than just being okay with being who we are in the present moment. And that's where a lot of stagnancy comes from in life, is that we hold ourselves back from saying, I'm just a mother. That's the only thing I resonate with. Or I'm just a Buddhist. That's the only thing I resonate with. Or I'm just a medium. That's the only thing I resonate with. Or I'm Caucasian. That's the only identification that I resonate with. And every single time we put a label on who we think we are, we attach ourselves instantly to that label. And the reason why we attach ourselves to that label is because we don't feel like that's us, but we're convincing ourselves in every single moment that that label and that identity is going to make us happy, when essentially it's not. It's never going to make us happy. And to be honest, I'm going to put it out there, even if you were to say, whoa, I'm Palladian, cool, good for you. You understand your cosmic identity. But once again, that's not going to make you happy. Because newsflash, you're a human in this lifetime. So even if you feel like you're a wolf, or you're a tree, or you're a sacred geometry, even whatever you feel like you resonate with, that's great. And that's amazing to understand why you feel so disconnected with your human self, but it doesn't really provide the answers that you're looking for on how to be happy with what you're given / what you gave yourself. Because at the end of the day, we all create our own reality, right? I'm kind of all over the place, but hopefully just that tangent kind of really resonates. Okay, so I want to talk about the state of fear within the body. So think about it this way. Your very last incarnation could have been a frog in Africa. Your very last incarnation could have been a dachshund, and you could have been a pet for a family. Your very last incarnation could have been an interdimensional being. And to be honest, it doesn't have to be just your very last incarnation, but it could be the lifetime that you most resonate with. And that being said, when we are in a body that we don't completely resonate with, there's always going to be this state of fear, because we're always in survival mode, right? It's like, okay, I'm not supposed to be here. It's this underlying anxiety of something's not quite right, but we're never told the answers. We're never taught the answers. And so it's really difficult. So it creates a lot of depression, a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety, even a lot of paranoia, and a lot of defense and a lot of survival. We are constantly in a state of survival if we constantly feel like we are on the outside looking in. If we constantly feel like we are an outsider into this whole civilization, this whole humanity, then we're constantly going to be triggered into that fight or flight mentality. And we're constantly going to have our walls up, and we're constantly going to have to prove ourselves through projection, right? So it's really difficult. It's really difficult to, first of all, just admit that you don't feel completely content in your body. And I want to ask all of you, before I go into extreme OCD, fear, and body dysmorphia, is there anything or anyone or any living thing out there in the universe or on this planet that you feel more connected to? So please comment below. Is it an animal? Is it an insect? Usually it's living things, because that's what harbors consciousness. Is it an interdimensional being? Is it a plant? Is it a tree? What do you feel more connected to than the body that you have right now? So please comment below. Let me know. Let's take a look. Okay, Allison, animals in general. Paco, waves. Interesting. Okay. creatrix, animals and plants. Okay. Celtic girl, wolf, very nice. Valerie, Mother Earth. Okay. Flower, not from Earth. Yeah. Music, Palladians, beautiful. What else? We've got the ocean from Rachel, a bird, Leslie. Okay. A tiger. Ooh, I like that. Nature, dolphins, beautiful. Okay, so my mom's watching this live video, and she will absolutely validate that when I was younger, around 7 or 8, well, earlier than that, but especially when, I was able to decorate my room in the way that I wanted to, I told my mom, all I want is Jaguar. I want Jaguar everything. And she was so amazing. And she decked my room out in Jaguar everything. And I said, Africa everything. So I had authentic African masks on the wall. I had little spoons that were hand carved from Africa. I had leopard print all over my room, leopard print sheets. I had giant jaguars on my bed. I was obsessed with jaguars, and I knew the difference in spots between jaguars and cheetahs. I said, Mom, don't get me a cheetah print. I don't want cheetah print. I want jaguar print. I want to be a jaguar, right? So I had this obsession with jaguars when I was younger, and I remember when I was younger, I would walk around on all fours, and I would swim kind of doggy style like this. Anyway, I was obsessed. And now I know, cool, that was a past life that I was very clearly connected to, and everything had to be jaguar. And I still love the jaguars today, but I think hummingbirds, snails, and donkeys are totally my spirit animals for the present moment. So really cool. And then, and then what else did I want to say? Okay, cool. Okay, so I want to talk about extreme OCD and fear. And so I watched this documentary, super cool. And the documentary was surveying individuals with OCD, very extreme, severe OCD. And so I find that I definitely have some OCD. OCD is just obsessive compulsive disorder. You obsess about things. Isn't that the human condition to freaking obsess about things, right? But I remember, from a very early age when I was younger, I would be in the passenger seat of our minivan, and I would have my favorite Beanie Baby, right? I love Beanie Babies. I would have my favorite Beanie Baby in my lap. And I was so worried because all I could see was me throwing the Beanie Baby out the window, right? I was so worried that I was going to throw the Beanie Baby out the window that I had to roll up the window, right? And I didn't know that having a fear of the worst case scenario is actually a part of being a little bit OCD. And I feel like we all kind of have this OCD tendency within us, and it comes in a variety of different ways. But I just wanted to mention, there was 2 people on this extreme documentary, and I just wanted to kind of bring an insight into the OCD tendencies. So one lady, she was obsessed with washing her hands. She would spend up to 3 to 5 hours a day on just washing her hands because she was so frightened of bacteria and germs. And then this other guy in the same documentary was, he was obsessed, compulsively obsessed with admitting to a crime that he didn't commit. And he was so obsessed with this, he would chain himself to his bed for fear of waking up in the middle of the night, calling the police station, and committing to a crime that he didn't commit. And then he would have to check all of the pieces of papers and all of the pens to make sure that he didn't write down a note of confessing to a crime that he didn't commit. So as this documentary is going on, I'm like, whoa, this is so intense. And at the same time, I'm actually tuning in and reliving their past lifetimes where the OCD and the compulsive disorder is actually coming from. I didn't want to tap into their energy because it's not right. It's not without permission. It's just not really acceptable to tap into other people's energy. Anyway, so the woman, her child, I believe, had some sort of smallpox or got some sort of disease, right? There was some sort of plague that happened, and her child ended up dying of this disease. And she was holding her child in her arms when the child passed away. And she was so there was part of this fear and sadness of what had happened to her child, and then part of this worry that it was going to happen to her or that she was going to spread it to anyone else, right? So she completely became a recluse, even though she didn't have this disease, and she couldn't stop bathing herself, like compulsively bathing herself in that lifetime because of what had happened. And then, of course, that obsessive disorder came through in this lifetime with her needing to wash her hands for fear of, am I going to spread germs to anyone else or to myself? And then how the therapists helped these individuals get over their fears is for her especially, they said, see that dirty toilet right there? I want you to swipe the bowl of the toilet, right? And then I want you to put your hands all over your body. And there was like the worst fear that you could possibly imagine for her. And she did it and she overcame it, which was so incredible. So that was really cool. And then the guy who was obsessed about admitting to a crime that he didn't commit, of course, I mean, the past lifetime that came through was not too long ago, he was like in the military, and there was like this crime of treason. And I don't know if he actually admitted to the crime that he didn't commit for obligation reasons, or if he got pushed and pressured into admitting to that crime that he didn't commit. But either way, he got locked up for life on a crime that he didn't commit. So just know that a lot of our fears, the majority of our fears, especially the irrational ones, are coming from somewhere. They're coming from past lives and karma. So I just wanted to share that with all of you and say, hey, everyone has extreme fears and they are actually all reasonable, but we need to confront the fear before we actually overcome it. And that's really important. Okay, and then I wanted, this is really, really important. And then I want to talk a little bit about body dysmorphia. And then I want to talk about the solution. If you don't feel like you are in the right body and you feel like you are being displaced, then what is the solution for that? You know, what is the solution to really feel content within ourselves, within our body? And so a really important part that I want to bring up, and I want all of you to write notes on this. If you have a note, piece of paper and a pen, please write this down. Okay, super important point. And hopefully you understand this. Okay, so the point is loving out of fear. Loving out of fear. It sounds like a paradox, right? It sounds like a paradox. Okay, so for example, we see this a lot in religion, and we see this a lot in Christianity. And so the word would be, or the sentence would be, loving God for fear of hell. So, you know, if I were to ask you, why do you love God? You know, well, if you don't love God and you don't believe in God, then you're going to hell. So that right there is not real love. It's not real love. It is not love for the genuine, authentic purpose of loving. It's not. That is love out of fear. Now, a lot of us convince ourselves that we are loving for the sake of loving, and it's actually a lie, right? A lot of us, myself included, get stuck in loving out of fear rather than loving for the sake of loving. And so say, for example, loving yourself out of the fear of attracting the negative, right? So once again, this understanding of, I love myself, I love myself, I love myself, because if I don't love myself, then I'm going to attract that negativity, that I'm going to attract that fear, right? So this weird kind of paradoxical energy, right, that people have of trying to push love out of from a place of fear. And so, so how do we overcome this? How do we love for the sake of loving without the fear? And so a lot of us try and either distract ourselves from fear, or we try and convince ourselves that we're in love when we're really in fear. Once again, like, why do you love God? Oh, I love God because if I don't love God, then something, you know, is going to happen. So loving out of fear. And I want to ask all of you, is there anything in your life right now that you love out of fear? And a really good example just popped up in my mind, which is loving vegetables out of fear of being overweight or unhealthy, right? You're convincing yourself that you love something for fear that it's going to get worse because you don't have that love. You know what I mean? It's loving out of fear. It's a big no-no. It's very paradoxical. Okay. And then I want to talk about, how do we get out of this? And so what did I want to say? Yeah. Okay, great. So how this applies to identity is we love and essentially attach ourselves to our identity for fear of not knowing who we are, right? It's like, okay, well, I'm going to be a really good mother, and that's my identity. I'm going to be this mother because if I'm not a mother, then who am I? And I don't want to even think about not knowing who I am. Therefore, I'm just going to attach myself to whatever I've had in the past. Right? That's how we get complacent. That's how we get stuck. That's how we get, in the same cycles over and over and over again. That's how we start running the hamster wheel, right? Is that we attach ourselves to something for fear of not having something else. So we just completely settle with what's okay and not what's fucking amazing, So we're loving ourselves out of fear of not knowing ourselves. And that's not the right way to go about doing it. So I want to talk about this. So how do we love ourselves in pure love and not love ourselves out of fear? How do we love our identity out of pure love rather than out of fear of not knowing our identity? And so here's the answer. Super important. And I want you to write this down. And the answer is we all have to love the fear. Love the fear. Do not love out of fear. We need to love the fear. So in that moment, say, for example, you're like, my identity is of a teacher. And if I'm not a teacher, right, or your identity is always giving to others, your identity is service to others. You need something, call on me because I am your girl, and so your identity is always to be giving to other people. And you're only in and attaching to that identity for fear of who are you beyond that identity, right? So you are loving yourself, you're loving your identity out of fear of not having an identity at all. So how do we change this? How do we transmute this? We recognize the fear itself. Okay, great. So I'm attaching myself to this identity. I'm scared of not having an identity at all. And so you're recognizing the fear, right? Then once you recognize the fear, you have to love the fear. Okay, so my fear is not having an identity. I wonder what that feels like. It's really fucking scary, right? If I don't know who I am, then I don't know what I want. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know if my life is actually making me happy. And I might need to change everything because of that, right? So we need to deep dive into the fear and we need to love the fear because guess what the fear is showing us? The fear is showing us misalignment. The fear is showing us what is lacking in our life. The fear is showing us the truth. Everything is binary. The fear is showing us the truth. Instead of convincing yourself that you're happy and loving out of fear, we need to stop and we need to love the fear and say, thank you so much for having this fear of the unknown. Now I know what I need to work on. And transmuting that by loving it. Love the fear. Do not love out of fear. Do you guys get that? Are you with me on that? Because this is a very kind of, I guess, very old concept in a lot of ancient teachings, but very new for me to conceptualize and put it out there in that way. Does that make sense to all of you? To love the fear rather than love out of fear. And that is simply unconditional love. Because loving out of fear, loving God for fear of hell, is a condition that the Bible and Christianity or Catholicism or religion puts on us to say it's either one or the other. Right? Either heaven or hell. And if you don't believe in heaven, then you're going to hell. And that's a conditional love that God has on us. It's conditional in the way, if you love me, then I'm going to love you back. If you believe in me, then I'm going to love you and put you into a good place. But if you don't love me, no way, you're going to hell. That's a conditional love, right? That's loving out of fear. that is not anything else. So if we were to actually love the fear of hell, right? To say, for example, wow, like hell is a scary place, but I can love and accept and appreciate the fact that if you really believe in hell, right? If I need to be there, I'm going to be there and I'm going to learn in that place, and that's it. And so I think the loving the fear as well is the trusting that everything is exactly the way it needs to be and everything's in alignment. So that's really important. And then I want to talk about, like, more specifically the solution to your identity crisis, because I've been dealing with my own identity, especially in now kind of having a new LGBTQ identity, which I think everyone's a little bit fluid, in gender and sexuality, because we've all been both male and female before. We've all been both human and non-human before. We've all been a plant and an animal and a human before, because we're all human. You know what I mean? So, like, we've all been there, and there's all things that we all identify with. So I want to talk about solutions to your own identity crisis. And okay, so a couple of things. Number one is, this is so good. Okay. And I really hope that you write this down because it's super important. Okay. Number one, accept yourself as a new person in every single moment. It's so simple, but it's so fucking profound. Accept yourself as a new person in every single moment. So today, I want to try jujitsu. And guess what? I'm going to go take a jujitsu class. And guess what? That's cool. And guess what? I'm going to perceive myself as a jujitsu master in that moment. And that's my identity. But that's not my identity right now. Right now, I'm perceiving myself and stepping into the identity of a human who is teaching information that I receive. That's my current identity. And in 15 minutes from now, I'm going to be painting. And I'm going to accept my identity in that moment as an artist. And that's great. And in 20 minutes from now, I'm going to be taking my dog for a walk. And in that moment, I'm going to accept my identity as a dog owner in that moment, right? And then yesterday, I got a tattoo. And in that moment, I accepted my identity of someone with tattoos, right? And next week, I'm getting a motorcycle. And in that moment, I'm going to accept myself. But in order to accept yourself as a new identity in every single moment, right? Which is also true unconditional love. In the next moment, if I get really triggered and I get really angry and frustrated, guess what? I'm going to accept myself in that moment as someone who's really triggered and really angry. And I'm going to love myself through that moment in the acceptance of who I choose to be in that moment, right? That way, there is no attachment, there is no stagnancy, there is no complacency, because you're always moving, you're always changing, and there's no need to project yourself anymore because you are just fully in acceptance of who you are in that moment. And you're trusting yourself and who you are in that moment rather than saying, should I be someone else? Should I do something more? Does someone need me? Am I being my best self? Fuck that. You are your best self in the moment as long as you accept yourself in that moment. Even in the lowest vibrational fear moments, you are being your best self because we all need to experience the binary of love and fear in this lifetime. We need to love the fear, not abandon it, not disregard it, not suppress it, not get away from it, and not love, especially not love out of fear, right? So solution number one to your own identity crisis is accept yourself as a new person, as a new identity in every single moment. And you will literally sail smoothly through life, and you will not have to question or spend all of the time and energy questioning yourself and your actions and your reactions in every single moment, because you love yourself in every single moment, because you're accepting yourself in every single moment. And then all of a sudden, fear, love, good, bad, ugly, beautiful, right? You love yourself. That's it. That's the biggest thing. Okay, solution number two, challenge the attachments to your current identity, right? We can't get to the place of true unconditional self-love if we are not challenging our current attachments to our current identity. So I have a little homework for all of you. I want you to write down some labels that you identify with. So what is your current identity right now? Maybe write down 3 of them, just in your own notebook or in the comments, right? So write down 3 different identities that you resonate most with. For me, I would say like channeler, teacher, and I'm going to say badass because I love being a badass. So those are the 3 identities that I most resonate with. And then this week, okay, so this is Monday. You've got a whole week until next Monday's live to challenge your identity. Okay, so choose 3, maybe even choose 1 main identity that you resonate with, and I want you to challenge it. I want you to do the opposite of what that identity is. For me, I went to Panama. I've been a teacher for a very long time, and I went to Panama and I said, I want to challenge my identity as a teacher, and I want to be a student. And it's been years since I chose to be a student in any regard. And that was so beautiful. It's such a beautiful experience to be 3 weeks, not teaching, but listening, to be a student. So what is the identity that you want to switch around? Maybe your main identity is a mother, right? Mom, my identity is being a mother. Okay, well, what's the opposite of being a mother? Being a child. How can you allow your children to be your parent and teach you? And how can you express your own inner child this week? Okay, so there's the homework for this week. At least 3 identities, and at least challenging 1 of those identities by doing the opposite, being the opposite of that particular identity. Okay, awesome. Okay, great. So then the third solution here, yes, and we've kind of really mentioned this, is love all of the fear and don't love out of fear, right? Once again, love all of the fear and don't love out of the fear. So that's solution number 3. And then I have a 4th solution, 4th and last, which is you are always going to feel displaced if you continue to be outside of the present moment. This is really important, right? If you're like, oh, like one day I want to be wealthy. One day I want to be a parent. One day I want to be an artist. One day I want to be a teacher. Or, oh man, that childhood trauma is still really affecting me. Oh, why can't I get over this thing in the past? Oh, why is that breakup so difficult for me? If we are either way too in the past or way too in the future, with no matter what it is, we are outside of ourselves and we are identifying with a self that is not in the present moment. Okay, so it's really important. If we are outside of ourselves, either in the past or the future, we are always displacing ourselves. We're always going to feel anxious and restless and depressed. Okay. Okay, great. I'm going to do a draw for a free webinar, which is going to be really exciting. And you can get into the draw by reviewing me, either on Google or Facebook. But I definitely recommend Facebook since I'm taking down my Google listing for right now. And I also want to mention, I just got in my school course materials for my beta testers for the EA School of Awakening. I had so much interest from the last video. If you are interested in taking the course, it's like basically a 4-month course program, very intensive. It takes you out of fear into love. It takes you out of the 3rd dimension into the 5th dimension. It includes a notebook and a bunch of motivational magnets and crazy like workbook and all of the stuff. So if you're interested in taking the course at 50% off, okay, please email me. Once again, expand@elizabethapril.com. I pretty much have our beta group set in motion, but if you are interested, please let me know, and I'll send you a little questionnaire. Okay, good. And then the webinars, definitely check it out. Lots of really cool webinars out there. Manifestation, how to be psychic, and how to break through this matrix reality. I mean, they're just freaking mind-blowing. Definitely recommend that. And then podcast, I'm releasing the Expand podcast April 1st. I'm so excited. And yeah, I've got an amazing producer and I've got a really awesome advertising team. So if you want to be an advertiser on my Expand podcast, please reach out to me, let me know, and I will link you with the right people, which is awesome. And then It's a little bit too far away. And then once again, please go check out Sarah and Joe's company. They have these gorgeous, so powerful mala necklaces and bracelets and other crystal jewelry. And you will find that at lilyrosejewelryco.com. So thank you both so much for sending me these gorgeous malas. I love them. And then let's do a draw for a free webinar. I feel like drawing 2 people today. It was so funny. If you saw my draw from last week, I literally pulled my girlfriend's name. And I'm like, yeah, that's cool. You know, of course I pull her name out of like 400 people, right? Which is really, really cool, like how synced and how dynamic and how linked we are. It's just, anyway, I'm like, I'm not putting your name back in, babe. And I'm like, yeah, anyway. Okay, all right. So let's take a look here. Sending out good intentions. I don't know if something just dropped. Okay, there was a name that just dropped. I believe that everything happens for a reason. I'm actually going to grab that name and I'm going to give them a free webinar as well. Okay, let's see here. Good intentions. Someone who really needs the information. All right. Yes, I feel it. Oh, okay, great. So we have got Carol and Eno. I think that's Enu. Carol and Enu. Congratulations, Carol. And I'm going to just hop down off of my chair. Okay, and then our second winner is Justin Rogers. Super easy name. Congratulations, Carol. Congratulations, Justin. Thank you so much for reviewing me. Hopefully, if your name is not already in there, please go ahead, take the time to review. And other than that, have a beautiful, incredible, amazing week. Definitely challenge your own intuition, challenge your own identity, understand who you are, love yourself, and love the fear. And I will see you back here next Monday at 5:55. Bye, Facebook. Bye, YouTube. Thank you. Thanks, guys.